Good morning. I'm a student of art. I'm an academic, poet, lyricist, composer, a professionally trained vocalist, and a performer. For the past 10 years, I have been using my art to bridge the worlds of poetry, music, and research. I have three books of poetry in Assamese, along with a co edited research volume on the folk traditions of the Tiwa tribe of Assam, a tribe I also belong to. My poetry has been translated into Spanish, German, English, Hindi, Bangla, and Nepali. A research monologue based on my MPhil study is to be published this year. My music, which is inspired heavily by my poetry, made it to the Rolling Stone India magazine in 2020. Apart from being a trained researcher in the folk traditions of tribal life, which is reflected in my poetry and my music, I'm also the founder of the Poetry Project, something I started in 2024 with a vision to transform the language of poetry into that of music. In 2017, I co founded Project Bartalap. It was a musical initiative that blended Assamese folk sensibilities with electronic ambient music. A project that eventually went on to become a game changer in music for me and my co founder. In 2025, recently, very recently, uh, me, along with another friend of mine, we we took up a mission to create an organic platform for the unheard voices of art from the region. We call it Azar. Azar is known as the pride of India in English. It's a flower that blossoms at the end of May, which again coincides with the month of Bohag, which signifies the celebration of spring and festivities. We used this metaphor of Azar to define and celebrate those people uh, who had always been practicing their art away from the limelight, but had been true with it within their hearts. So, in short, I'm many things. I have a multi layered career spanning almost across 15 years. And in this journey, I did have my own moments of dilemma around my art and myself. As a beginner, I would often ask myself, what am I and why? So, to tell that story, let me take you all a little back in time. As a child, I loved languages, I loved words, and I loved sound. I loved the rhythm and the color that this universe has so generously gifted all of us. And some of you who are from Assam might know that I was born and raised in the Northeast, and nature is abundant in this part of the country. So, growing up, all the musings of everything creative that I ever did, they would be tied inherently to the sensory experiences that I had with nature. And somehow, even till today, those sensory experiences and memories continue to guide me in everything creative that I do. I'll give you a quick example. So, how many of you here remember your first encounter with a dragonfly? It's a very simple question. I'm assuming you know what a dragonfly is. Or how many of you remember your first experience of smelling a flower? Do you remember the first time you perhaps slightly touched the wings of a dragonfly or the petals of a flower? It's very odd, but I somehow very vividly remember the sight, color, and sound of the first dragonfly that I spotted in our garden in our home. I remember the first smell of my first flower. And I'll tell you the fun that begins with that. I'll share a fun story. Mo Pia it is one of my most popular Assamese tracks. It is actually derived from my childhood memory of the sunbirds. We locally call them mopia. The sunbirds, they also call honeysuckers. So that memory of the sunbirds coming to our garden in spring, the sight and sound of those sunbirds or honeysuckers sucking nectar from our flowers in our home, it became a permanent memory of mine as a child. And it's so simple, but it's so beautiful that it became a story that I would carry within myself for the rest of my life. And when I did Mopia, very later in life, sometime in 2020, I wrote Huru huru kothabu pahe pahe akilu puthorua batote mopia hadu kotha. All right, it's very difficult to speak and talk at the same time. So this is a quite a quick English translation for those who do not know Assamese. As we drew our little things on the petals of wildflowers, the stories of the sunbirds began adorning the pebbled roads of life. A quick Hindi translation I would like to uh, uh, say to you guys. छोटी छोटी बातें हमने फूलों की पंखुड़ियों पर जो सजाई, तो पथरीले राहों में भी फूल चुक्कियों की कहानियां खिलने लगी. So this was how Mopia had impacted me and my creative sensibilities. In fact, the sunbird or the Mopia, it found another mention in one of my early creative writings. It was called Silmil Tuponit Phagun, a poem that was included in the first anthology of poetry of mine. And the first line read, Eragosor dalot, Mopia jirua bela, akashor rong সঘনাই সলনি হয়. In the afternoons when the honeysuckers rest on the trees, our sky changes its colors. So this is a kind of beauty that is added to a journey which is rooted in memories like this. But in this journey, I also did face a few technical questions with myself. For example, if I infuse a tune into poetry, would it still remain a poem? Or if I compose a song out of my poem, or if I compose a song whose lyrics are derived from poems, would it be a song or a poem? Or how much can I bend the foundational rules of both the forms of art so that I can still create an original version of a creative piece, which probably can be called a lyrical, poetic song or a musical poetry? And these were the technical questions that were mine to deal with alone. But then, as we all know, there is society and societal boxes and categories. And if you are born and brought up in the periphery, you would know that these boxes and categories can become a little bit more real for you. So as a teenager, when somebody would refer to me as a singer or a gaika, as we locally call it, or a poet or a kovi, the teenager in my heart would scream, no, 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 please, please, I am not either of them. I am both. Please call me an artist instead. So this became a thought for me, like, why do I want to be called an artist instead? And it took me some time to realize that I did have an artist inside me who could think and feel, and then who could write, compose, produce, and sing and perform those feelings in front of an audience or listeners. And from where I come from, almost everybody is an artist who is tuned to the hummings of nature. Poetry and music comes naturally. And it also took me some time to realize that it is these roots of mine which would eventually define who I am as a human, and as an artist. That as an artist, no matter where and how I am planted, I would still, in this chaos of a world that is, I would still blossom with art. And in the years to follow, I would finally work towards finding that true space for myself. As an artist, I dwell in an art that recites and bridges the worlds of poetry, music, and intellect. And that is what had made me create platforms like uh, the Poetry Project, Project Bartalab, or Ezar, and the multiple creative exercises that I got involved with, the multiple creations of poetry, music, and everything in between. I would like to talk a bit about the Poetry Project. As I already told, it started in 2024 with a vision to transform the language of poetry into that of music. And the main idea was to influence and expand the sensory experience and then to create a very intimate path of peace and healing for the listener. But why did I take up that project? As I already said, I love the innate music that words carry. And my forever inspiration, uh, the 2020 Gyanpith awardee, and a very powerful, one of the most powerful poets of our state and our country, Sanilmani Fukonn, had said a very important thing. A great poem would always have an innate music in it, and a great song would always, in its essence, carry a poem. This resonated with me very deeply because I realized when I would read a poem, I would be as much carried away by the sound of it, the phonetics and the rhythm behind the words, as much I am carried away by the meaning. And I also realized that these are the things uh, that would persist my perennial love and parallel love, actually, for words, sound, and rhythm in everything that I have ever done or touched creatively. And it is through a combination of these three words, sound, and rhythm that I have carved out a path of peace and healing for myself and also for my listeners and audiences. So, in this journey, which is comparatively short till now, what are my learnings? I have pointed out three things for myself. The first point being, yes, there is a need to categorize art sometime because of administrative and bureaucratic reasons, because of many things that are outside the definition of art, by the way. But sometimes it does puts a limit on the artist's potential. Now, I'm also an academic and a researcher, and now we are upgrading and using new research methods like transdisciplinarity in research to have a fresh approach to the phenomena in society. I think art also can use transdisciplinarity in order to understand itself better in contemporary times and in changing scenarios. And it's also because I believe art as an entity, it inherently transcends disciplines. The second point is training in multiple disciplines, it's always a plus. So, my training as a sociologist for 16 years profoundly impacted and influenced how I looked at poetry and music. And in reverse, my training in Indian classical music for 10 long years impacted how it created a strong foundation of sur and tal, that is rhythm and melody, and that profoundly helped me in composing poetry. And if I go further, my exposure to different kind of poetries helped me to look at music and sociology entirely differently. I come to the third and the most important part of my learning in this journey. Staying, the strong intent to stay true to one's root is pivotal. And why? because as our theme for this particular talk says, the ship of Theseus may have become many new things, but the story began with a ship intending to reach its final journey, reach its final destiny. So, even as an artist, navigating through the various chaos of this ever changing and ever evolving world, and as someone, as an artist who is always under the pressure of staying relevant in this culture industry, which is also, like, plagued and blessed. It's both sides of the same coin. It is blessed and plagued by many multimedia platforms. In all of this chaos, I have transformed into many things. But I believe what the beauty in my art and its identity lies in the fact that the memory of the first dragonfly, somehow, somewhere inside me, it still lives. Thank you.